On our morning show today from WRCO, in the studio with us is Julia Henley, who is running for the 41st Assembly seat. And in our morning show studios today to talk about the November 5th election. So good morning to you, Julia.
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you in here to educate people on you and your background. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and where you grew up?
I grew up in Michigan. Big water girl, and about 30 years ago, just under 30 years ago, I moved to the La Crosse area and got very involved in local initiatives to improve Main Street and that sort of thing. So it was my first effort at volunteering, and I've been a volunteer leader for a number of different projects throughout the Driftless region, primarily. First one was Clearwater Farm up in Alaska. That's been around for 25 years now, served thousands of people. I was a co-founder of that and president for about 6 years. Moved on into Centering on Alaska, which is a Main Street program. And then I got tapped to work on disaster recovery in Gaze Mills, flood recovery. And that brought me down even further into this area and then into Richland County. From there, co-founded Sustainable Driftless. We produced the documentary Decoding the Driftless, and also River to Valley Initiatives, which deals with affordable housing and adaptive reuse. My business has always been in design. I've been very involved in the construction industry for a long time, and I just love the area.
So you're well-versed in the Driftless area, it sounds like.
Very much so, very much so. The challenges, the opportunities, the incredible beauty and environment that I believe very strongly we need to protect and enhance. And it's the basis of our economy, whether it's agriculture or tourism or just quality of life and attracting people to want to live here and grow with us.
Why did you want to throw your hat in the ring, so to speak, in these crazy times?
These crazy times, yes. It became known to me a few weeks before the deadline to register to run that not only do we have these new districts that are much more fair, we also had a need for a second candidate. And so I inquired, and I got a lot of support to run and encouragement, and here I am.
Did you ever think you'd be doing it?
Never.
No.
I never thought I would want to be into quote-unquote politics, but I don't look at it that way. I look at it more from my designer background, which is approaching a situation or a project, and it's like, how can we work together and make it better? And so I guess that's basically the theme of my campaign is I believe very strongly we can do better, and we can do better as we balance our legislature. And it hasn't been balanced for quite a long time. So I hope the voters will look into what I'm all about and vote for me on November 5th.
Certainly a lot of issues. I think education is one of them. That's kind of tops on your list, isn't it?
It is top on my list because if we are starving our educational system, which we are, and we're seeing the results of that now with closings, and 50% of our school districts are going to referendum November 5th. That is an indicator we are not doing this correctly. And I'm not talking about raising taxes. I'm talking about wise investment into our people. Because if we have an educated young children that feel excited about learning throughout life, and we have adults that want to change, they have the opportunity to get a really good education. And Wisconsin used to be known for that, and we are sliding down the ranks.
Public funding, funding per pupil, that's a big issue right now with the district administrators I talk to, and I'm sure you're well aware of that as well.
I am. I need to be even more well aware. I mean, there's so many details and nuances that I think the average person cannot possibly pay attention to as we're so busy. But it is critical. It is really affecting our kids, how we make sure that there's enough money. It hasn't been dealt with for quite a long time. I mean, the state funding, I think it was last adjusted in the 90s, for heaven's sakes. And there's been so many changes since then. I mean, just even inflation is one thing, but let's talk about adjusting for that. Let's talk about hiring the best and the brightest for our kids. There's aging infrastructure. There's so many things that need to be dealt with our school systems. And it's not the right thing to do isn't just, well, we're just going to close the school. We're just not going to pay people enough. I mean, we've got to get our kids excited and motivated about school. And our graduations, going into our into skills training, going into 4-year and more education, that only benefits Wisconsin as a whole and every small business. That's what we need.
What about healthcare? That's another biggie, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, yes, healthcare. I think it's kind of unbelievable to me that we've left billions of dollars on the table year after year. And not expanded Medicaid. That is vitally important for our rural people. We've got vets, we've got young families, we've got older people that need health care. And when we starve that situation, hospitals close. We can't attract the right doctors, and then more hospitals close. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and there's no need to do that. It doesn't affect, we've already paid those taxes. Why aren't we bringing that money back in?
When you're out and about in the public, what is the most common thing and concern you hear from people?
Oh, the thing that I'm hearing is education is just a huge one, and the real concern for communities and for schools. I have heard a few people, just really, really concerned about the cost of everything, and yet that can't be blamed on one little thing. It's a complex thing. It's a supply chain issue. There's some corporate greed out there, and we got to do something about it. It's just ridiculous. This inequity is just growing at such a rapid rate, and that doesn't mean that, if you've got millions in assets that I'm, advocating that we're coming for your money. Heavens no, we're talking about gigantic corporations with gigantic profits that really took advantage of us after COVID.
Another issue I know that you're running for is ensuring women's right to choose.
Yes. I think that it is a woman's right to run her own life and her own body, and I believe that there's been so much misinformation about what abortion is. And this whole idea that after the 24-week period when a fetus can become viable, that child would be aborted, that doesn't happen. Late-term abortions have to do with health care. And to take that away from the possibility for your daughter or your niece or whatever, and they're struggling and they may die, and we don't have the doctors here in Wisconsin to deal with that, that's crazy. And can't do that. So yes, I believe that that's an individual right. It's a freedom, and I don't see why we're taking those freedoms away from women to be healthy.
I know that land and water are big issues for you. What are some things you're thinking about there, Julia?
I think that the bad actors that are polluting need to be dealt with. I think we need to enforce the laws that we have, and I feel that it's one thing to have a law on the books or vote for something and say, oh yeah, I care about water, but it's another thing entirely to enforce the rules and make the polluters clean up their own mess, not socialize the costs of their mess. So I think that's really important. And even just the funding for the DNR, my goodness, why aren't we having those people out there for us, looking out after us instead of, again, starving another agency? I think government can do good things for us and do good things for us in conjunction with robust capitalism. But there are certain things that we as a society need to work together on.
We have a huge agricultural area here
Yes.
in southwest Wisconsin and the Driftless as well, Julia. I know you're well aware of that, but what are some things that you bring to the table in terms of ways to help agriculture and the farmers?
I founded Clearwater Farm in 2001, and it was about getting kids and families connected and understanding the importance of our farming and where food comes from, and what is the idea of healthy food. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry in this district alone. Farming is huge in Wisconsin. My understanding at this point is that the huge loss of dairy farms that we've experienced and family farms over the last 20 years is slowing down a bit. And yet these smaller farms need assistance. I would hope the federal government can do what they need to do for agriculture locally. I think that working with farmers is very central to everything. But that comes back down to just the basic, what is the best way to do things? And a lot of people don't like CAFOs. It's a very efficient way of growing product. But enforcement of doing the right thing and educating small farmers is kind of a Wisconsin extension type of activity to educate the small farmer so that the small farmer can do well. And that comes down into cooperatives. It's a complex area, but I am totally behind and would do everything I can to help our agriculture.
What about working across the aisle? That's another big thing. We think, why can't everybody just get along?
Well, I think I bring to this idea of collaborative thinking goes back to my entire career, which is you show up on a job site, you don't care what anybody's politics is. You have a problem. You have a challenge, you engage everybody to get behind the idea of how to fix that, and you go for it. And that means collaboration and respect and just really bringing the facts to the situation and using creativity to work around obstacles. I consider that kind of my own little motto is just water flowing around the boulders. And there's a way that we can get to where we want to get to if we work together.
I appreciate the fact that you're talking about what you want to do, what you intend to do and things like that instead of, bashing or talking about somebody else or your opponent or anything like that. So
I don't think bashing is productive. And yet I do feel that we can do better. So there's that. And I just feel that the imbalance in our legislature is proven, and this is in all things, imbalance doesn't work. And imbalance and trying to just consolidate power or kind of find an agenda and satisfy it, that is not the right way to do things. We need to what is the purpose of government? What is the purpose of, how do people get along? And how can we work together to actually do real work for the people? That's what I feel is important.
First and foremost, you want people to come out and vote on November 5th.
I do. And I, even beforehand, vote however you can. That would be wonderful. That would be really, really wonderful. I'm hoping that we have just a huge turnout because I think that is going to be just really important for a mandate to do the work that we need to do.
Very important to get the word out for younger voters, too, no matter what side you're on, you want the young people to come out, right?
I want the young people to come out. I'm doing everything I can to reach young people. And I think young people in general are just tired and, maybe a little sad about the way the world is going. And I just want them to know that there's so much hope and possibility ahead of us. And don't give up. And we can do good things. We can make change. Government can work. And so young people are integral to making this all come together well for the future.
Anything else you'd like to add, Julia?
If you don't know where you're voting, because it's gotten confusing, go to myvote.wi.gov and just enter in your address, and you'll know where you can vote. And you'll know if you can vote. So that's a really wonderful site. I hope people will come to my own site, which is juliahenley.com. And if you just want to email me directly and you want to meet or you want to set up a group to meet and just talk about issues, I would love that. And that's just julia@juliahenley.com. You can follow me on Facebook. And I am so glad to be here. And thank you so much. It's been really exciting and fun to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. And people are probably confused again with the districts. What area is the 41st and where does that cover?
All of Richland.
Uh-huh.
All of Richland County. a good part of Sauk, more towards the west side, up through Richland Center, Reedsburg. These are the main ones, the biggest population areas. Wisconsin Dells, Lake Delton, a little bit of Columbia County, a little bit of Adams County, and the lower part of Juneau County. All part of the Driftless region. Amazing place. As I drive around, I'm just more impressed every day. It's just so incredible. And that's the district. And you can look that up too. If you go to my website, you can see the maps, and that would be a real easy thing to do.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in today and telling us
Thank you.
about yourself. We appreciate that. So, Julia Henley for Assembly in the 41st District on today's Morning Show.